Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Dana Kennedy, State Director with AARP Arizona, and I'm here with Coach Sherry Ann, who is going to be talking about healthy tips for the holidays. So we've been here having so much hype about the holidays and how this year's holidays are going to be different in the middle of a pandemic. And I think a lot of us are also just going to be stressed out with any decision that we make regarding should I have my parents over or not? Should I go to my parents' house or not? What about the grandchildren? So just making healthy choices is just going to be one more thing that we have to decide.
Right.
So Sherry Ann is going to help us navigate the holidays. And again, this is back to the basics. So Sherry Ann, I'm going to hand it off over to you.
Thank you, Dana. As always, I'm always very honored to be here to present to AARP Arizona. And it is a stressful time, and a lot of it is come down to do we have gatherings? Do we not have gatherings? And the guidelines for gatherings, is it 10 people? Is it 15 people? And so there's all of that stress involved, as well as the preparation for it, and then just going to a party, or a gathering, party gathering, it's all kind of the same, but it does create a lot of stress right now because of the pandemic. And so I will tell you that if you do get together with other people and or your family, just keep it small. And then that way that will help reduce the stress of everything else. And small is relative. In my world, it's 10, 15 max. And even then I'm like a little squeamish. And we still wear masks. And so that's the other thing is like, if I go to a gathering, do I wear a mask? Do I not wear a mask? And it depends on if these people are inside your bubble, and so those are choices that everybody has to make until it's mandated across the board. But outside of that, I have some tips for you for if you do go to a gathering to help, because that's the other thing that people are always stressed out about is the holiday 15, we've talked about the COVID-19 and now it's like the holiday, how do I stay healthy and how do I make appropriate choices? And so here are some tips going into the holiday season, whether you're going to a gathering or just doing things at your house. And so one thing to really keep in mind is always at the forefront of your mind is it's about connection when you go to a gathering. And especially now, because we're making it very small and intimate, but just focus on family and friends and connecting and laughing and being happy, being joyful and grateful that you do have these people that you can connect with, and let go of some of the fears that you are having. Be responsible and be conscious of your choices, but just be present to being connected with these people. And I think that in of itself is one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is just be present. And if you already currently live a life in balance and moderation, then it's okay to splurge. Like don't beat yourself up. Like just if you are already being in moderation, then indulge. Have a good time and indulge in the foods that you want to indulge in. Now, if you're not living a life of balance and moderation with your diet, and that's where you want to go, the holiday time is a challenging time to start that. And so it's just be very conscious of your choices. And so some of the things that I like to say is if you're going to a get together with friends or family, my joke is, ditch the comfy pants. Don't come and come. Some people make jokes about, I'm going to wear my sweatpants, I'm going to wear my elastic band, it's just because it allows you the opportunity to just indulge in food. So just go in normal clothes, don't wear anything constricting, but, don't go in with the attitude of I'm going to wear my comfy pants so that I can just gorge myself, because that's not going to set you up for success. So ditch the comfy pants. But if you walk into a buffet where things are set up, I really strongly recommend perusing it, walking it, taking a look at it, and just making your choices appropriately. Because some people, when they walk up to a buffet, they don't take a look at they don't gander the whole thing, and then they get their plate, and then they just fill their plate with everything as they're walking down, because they want to try everything. But take a look at it at first and be conscious of your choices when have you ever walked up to a buffet, Dana, and just been like, yep, I want a little bit of everything? Or are you pretty conscious when you do buffet?
Well, I definitely don't go to any, and I've never been a buffet person, but as far as like a buffet at somebody's house,
Right.
that's a little different to me. But I also think that, some of the good advice that I heard, just as soon as you get to somebody's house, make sure you wash your hands. If you're the host, make sure you have plenty of hand sanitizer. Consistently remind people, to wash their hands, don't touch your face. All those things are really important. And I think that, more this time, I mean, if you are the host, maybe just have somebody actually serving the food rather than a bunch of hands touching the same spoon and serving utensils and stuff like that. So I think making sure that we look at how we're doing things a little bit differently this year too.
I mean, my family, typically we do a very big buffet style, and we're not this year. We are going to get together and we're going to appropriately social distance in my backyard, but everybody's bringing their own food just to help ease the stress of anything, and so it's like, we're still going to gather, but we're keeping it very, very simple. We're not doing buffet style, which I will miss, because with my family, it's just part of the gathering part of it, but this is the year to stretch,
Yeah.
to stretch and make some adjustments. So, but the other thing too, when you're going to a gathering and eating, it's a good idea to have an appropriate snack before you go. Do not go on an empty tank. If you go on an empty tank, you have a tendency to overeat. So just have a nice healthy snack before you go. And the snack should focus on all three macronutrients, protein, your fat, and your carb. And it doesn't have to be a huge meal, just a little one, so that you're not going on a totally empty tank. It's the same thing when you go to the grocery store. Don't go to the grocery store on an empty tank, because you have a tendency to throw everything in the cart. So it's the same thing when you're going to a party or a get together. And this time of year, another big one is drinking alcohol. And it's actually on the rise due to the pandemic. They've actually correlated that. And so I will encourage people that if you are at a gathering and you are having alcoholic beverages, just be conscious. Like, a glass of eggnog is about 500 calories.
Are you serious?
Yes. And then beer, wine, and liquor all range between 150 and 225, depending upon what it is. And so just be conscious of those liquid calories, as I like to call them, but alternate. Like, if you are going to have alcoholic beverages, once you have one, have a full glass of water, and just really focus on sipping. But alternate, make sure that you're hydrated. That's the one thing is, we here in Arizona, especially because of how dry it is, we are dehydrated very, very quickly, and we don't even know it. So stay hydrated, because that will also help with your hunger sensations and being careful, because it'll help you not overeat as well. So staying hydrated is really important. And I love the idea of doing fruit or vegetable infused water, having a pitcher and, and putting whatever fruit you would like in a core in the center of the pitcher, and having it be a fruit infused, because it's a little different than just plain water. Or you can take, if you like bubbly water, take seltzer water, and you can add a little bit of 100% juice to it just to give it some flavor. And so doing something like that also really helps, because it does make you feel like you are having something, but you're really keeping the caloric intake down and you're staying hydrated. So I love fruit infused water. We have a pitcher that we can shove stuff down in the core of it, and it stays in the fridge, and it gets alternated out between different things. Watermelon when it's in season. Right now it's just lemonade in there. It's like lemon. It's not lemonade, it's lemon water. Looks like lemonade to them, to my kids. But that's a great way. It's just making sure that you're very conscientious of the alcoholic beverages that you're intaking, because those are heavy duty liquid calories. So.
And what are some other side dishes that we traditionally do that may be just loaded with calories that we could try a different type of a side dish? Any suggestions there?
Well, for this time of year, people tend to put gravy and sauces on a lot of things. So just ease up on the gravy and the sauces is one of my first tips, because they're loaded with sodium and they're really not very healthy. So try to avoid sauces on things. And sweet potatoes, I love sweet potatoes, but this time of year, people have a tendency to just drown them in butter. And all you need is a little bit of butter in there. Like, just be very conscientious of what you're putting in there. Some other popular side dishes are like the green, I'm just thinking of this time of year that people typically make, and I see, is like the green bean casserole. Like, they think they're eating green beans, but it's slathered in cream and butter. And so just, if you can make things a little less dense, then you'll be better off. When you're baking, try baking with applesauce instead of oil or butter, and because it'll keep it moist, but you kind of cut the calories a little bit. And really being comfortable with using spices. Like, spices really have a tendency to help reduce the fat and the caloric content, but it enhances the flavor. And so really not being afraid to use spices.
My mom, I'll make this beautiful fruit salad, and she will put Jell-O and whipped cream in it.
Yes. Yes. So yes, I totally know what you're saying. And it's like, that's the thing. That is the one thing too that I do want to impress upon people, in the sense of, and that goes back to the very first thing I said. If you're keeping things in moderation, it's okay to savor those seasonal things. And I don't want to tell people to deny themselves, because that's not fair, because then you have a tendency to gorge when you deny. And so having a little bit of things like if there's something that's very savory and it's seasonal, go ahead and have it. Just keep it small. And, like this time of year also, like desserts are a big thing. People make a lot of holiday desserts. And so I would encourage you to either do a very small bite of all the desserts that are presented to you, or just pick one and have a regular size serving of it, and then just enjoy it and that be it. But it's important to have that balance of enjoying and savoring the seasonal things, but don't feel guilty that you've done this. Like, show some grace to yourself and understand that this is a holiday time. And if you make a conscious decision to enjoy and indulge, then do that. And then the next day, wake up and decide to go for maybe a little bit longer walk than you normally do. Maybe 2 times around the block rather than 1 time around the block.
So what about dips? Can you give us some ideas, suggestions about some dips that aren't loaded with sour cream and other stuff that we're going to take fresh vegetables and then load it with a bunch of dips?
Right. Okay. Well, so before I get into dips, you said vegetables. So that's the other one of my other tips, is don't deny the vegetables and fruit. Like, make sure you're having plenty of fiber. And the beauty of vegetables, when they're usually served with dip, is they're raw because they're crunchy. So they take more time to chew. So like, spend time chewing your food, and vegetables take a while because they're crunchy. So enjoy them. But if you're dipping them, make sure, like we use Greek yogurt instead of sour cream here, just so that we can pump in some protein, because it's higher in protein than sour cream. But what I recommend is just scooping a little bit onto your plate, and that be it. Like, just when it's gone, it's gone. The dip is gone. And if you have more veggies than you've got dip for, then just go ahead and finish those veggies. Like, be conscious about it. And so it's being mindful about your choices and being mindful about eating. Like, when you're eating, you should be eating. And you're present to the food that you're consuming, because it's giving you energy. And so what happens here in the United States, predominantly, it does happen elsewhere, but we have a tendency to surround gatherings with food. Like, food's always tied to gatherings. And it's important to be mindful that when you're eating, you're eating. And when you're connecting with people, you're connecting with people. And if you find yourself standing next to the food while you're having a conversation with somebody, be conscious of that and move away from the food, so you don't sit there and continue to graze or fill your plate. And just be mindful of it. But as far as dips go, don't deny yourself. Just keep it, like, take a spoonful of it, and then when it's gone, it's gone. Like, move on. Hummus is a great dip, because it's actually really quite healthy for you. Be careful that you don't pick one that's high in sodium if you have a sodium issue. But hummus is a great one. And sometimes I tend to mix quinoa into the hummus, so it goes a little bit farther even, and then you're actually getting even a little bit more protein in a grain. because quinoa is considered a grain, but it's actually a protein. So that's one of my favorite things to do is mix quinoa into hummus, and it goes a little bit farther. So it's really very quite tasty. So it's just a matter of being very, very mindful of your choices. And if you are going to a gathering where it's potluck style, be the one that takes a healthy choice. Like just rise to the occasion and say, you know what, I'm going to bring either a fruit salad or I'm going to bring a green salad. And the green salad can be elaborate. Like you can have fun with it. Like go to the store and pick vegetables that you wouldn't normally pick and chunk them up and put them on greens and take it. Or just pick if you Google healthy side dishes, there's all kinds out there. But if you're going to a potluck, I will challenge you to be the one that takes a healthy choice, because there's plenty of them out there. And think color. Don't get away. There was an episode that I did about color, like eat the rainbow. So even if you're at a gathering and there's all different dishes out, like try to look at all the colors that are there and try to get a little bit of all the colors. Or if you're taking a dish, think about you'd like for it to be festive in the sense of colorful. Because if we're getting colors, it's usually fruits and vegetables, and it's a much better choice. So just think you want your plate to look colorful.
So give us an example of what your Thanksgiving meal would be.
Oh my goodness. Well, is this pre-COVID or is this year? This year, I really don't know what we're going to do. And it's interesting because my daughter turns 18 on Thanksgiving this year. So it's a birthday / Thanksgiving celebration. So, but typically, we do turkey, and that's the other thing is really stick to lean meats. Some people do different things on Thanksgiving. They don't do the traditional turkey. I actually prefer the dark meat because it's just tastes better to me. Yes, it's a little higher in fat than the white meat, but that is a nice balance for me. My indulgent thing on Thanksgiving, candidly, is my mom's homemade stuffing, which is her mom's recipe. So it's a family recipe. And that is the one thing, because I don't eat a lot of bread. And so stuffing's main ingredient is bread. So that's my indulgent thing on Thanksgiving is the stuffing, because I love it. And I put cranberry sauce on it. But we do sweet potatoes. And when we usually have our traditional Thanksgiving, we do it potluck style. And I'm usually the one that's bringing the salad. And just like, I know, surprise, surprise. But I make it really chunky with lots of different vegetables. I do think of the rainbow when I make a salad. But it's fun for me. Like, that's just how I think I've always been, because it's been standard with my family. Like, if we're getting together as a family, because my family is very large, we always do it potluck style. And I'm always the one that's bringing the healthy dish.
So give us an example of what goes in a Sherry Ann salad.
Oh gosh. Okay. So, I try to do as much seasonal as I can. So, and I do most of my produce shopping at Sprouts. There is a farmer's market that I try to hit over on Cactus in the 51. But I typically try to get whatever. So I always have radishes because I like the red of the radish. And sometimes I'll put kohlrabi in there. There's different colored bell peppers, cucumbers, red onion, like a little bit of everything. Like, I pretty much just look to see what's available, and then I just get it and it's all chunked up. And I like it chunky. I don't cut anything small because I want to be able to chew it and spend time chewing it and be mindful of what I'm eating. So it's really just whatever's available at the store, and I just put it in there. It's kind of like a kitchen sink salad, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, I've done a spinach with strawberries and walnuts, like that kind of a salad with a little bit of feta cheese and a vinaigrette. Really kind of what I call a foo-foo-y salad. But I tend to be more of a kitchen sink salad girl.
Got it. I always like to hear what other people are making.
Right.
One of the other in a rut,
What's that?
You get stuck in a rut.
Oh, definitely. And that's okay. I mean, because then you're comfortable with that, but it's nice to branch out and try different things. And that's one of the beauties of doing a potluck style sometimes is people bring things that you would have never even thought to make or try. And so it does give you an opportunity to kind of, expand your horizons.
Mhm.
Another thing that I was getting ready to say was be mindful of, after you've eaten your first plate of food, give yourself about 10 minutes, before you want to go get seconds. Because that's the thing, is we have a tendency to, our mindset is we got to try it all. So we're going to get our seconds. We want seconds. Or that was really good, I want to get seconds. But take 10 minutes, have a conversation with somebody, drink a glass of water, and just get your body to recognize what you've eaten, and just let it kind of sit there and eat to where you're satisfied, not to where you're stuffed. Because if you eat to where you're stuffed, you just feel miserable, and then you're kind of beating yourself up. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk pleasantly about themselves after they've eaten until they're stuffed. So just be mindful and be kind to yourself, and move around. You will be sitting to eat. Some people will stand to eat if they're eating just hors d'oeuvres. But once you're done eating, put your plate away and move around, mingle, socialize, go for a walk. If you're with your family and it's a small group, why don't you all go for a group walk around the neighborhood? You'll feel so much better, and your digestion will be a million times better. So just move. Or if you're with just family and friends and it's really simple, put some music on and dance. Like that, there couldn't be anything more lovely than being with friends and family and having music on and moving your body and dancing. So just move, move your body. It feels so much better.
And what about dessert?
So desserts. So how I do desserts, because I do like desserts, but I don't feel good after I eat a lot of sugar, because I don't have a lot of sugar in my daily diet. And so, that's another indulgent place for me, but I have a small bite of everything because I want to try all of it, because someone took the time to really prepare it. Usually we don't do a lot of store-bought stuff, but I will try a little bite of everything, but I keep it very, very small. Or the other thing you could do is you could just get a regular serving of that one dessert that you really, really want, and then call it good and be done with it. And once again, don't beat yourself up. Don't feel guilty for overindulging on something that's seasonal and you're going to move past. Right. That's the biggest thing. And, one of the other tips I give too is use a smaller plate. Use a smaller plate, because if you're using a smaller plate, your food will look larger on it. And that's a great tip to use. And the other one is, I can say is, how like little kids, when you first are serving a child food, they don't like their food to touch. That's why they've made plates with like compartments on them, because kids typically don't like their food to touch. So you can act like a child and don't crowd your plate. Like, don't let your food touch. Don't let it overlap, and be mindful of what you're putting on your plate. These are silly little tips that actually really work and help, because we have a tendency to just pile everything on the plate and then indulge and eat it. But if you want, just use a smaller plate, and then even more so, act like a child and don't crowd it. Don't let your food touch.
It's so true, but good advice. And then anything else we should think about before we head into the holidays?
Just be mindful. Be really mindful of connecting with the people that you're choosing to connect with, and talk about the things that you're grateful for when you are together. Go around the room or go around the table and just take a moment and be present to being with one another and saying what you're grateful for, and give yourself the opportunity to really connect with the people that you're choosing to be with. And it'll make everything so much more just embracing and wonderful and beautiful. And it'll help alleviate a lot of the stress if you just be mindful.
Great tips. So what do we have to look forward to in a couple more weeks?
Yeah, so in 2 weeks, we'll be in December, which is crazy. This year's been an interesting year. So I want to circle back around and talk about the importance of movement. Our weather is beautiful here. We can get out and about actually throughout the entire day now. We're not in the the hundreds or anything like that. And just the importance of movement and moving our bodies. And I'll give some tips, and we'll talk about why we want to do that. So just movement, getting your body moving again, because I think that people are just trying to really figure out how to still function with what we're going through right now as a society with this pandemic. So just keep moving, because it's so important for your well-being.
It really is. I know that I move every single day. Well, we all do, but I get up early and get in my exercise in the morning, and I'm trying to do a little bit more in the afternoon as well. Just I do feel like I'm sitting more than I normally do, and also just being mindful and taking breaks. And I think now that the weather is nice, we can actually take a lunch break and get out of the house and go walk around the neighborhood, or hop on your bike and do a short bike ride or something like that. I see a lot of people riding bikes now in my neighborhood, and I love it.
Yes. I mean, because the thing is because this has gone on for so long and we don't really see an end in sight, people are at home, or if they are going to an office, they're still doing a lot of Zoom. And so Zoom calls and video calls. And so there's not a lot of movement like there used to be. People are more stagnant now than they really ever have been as far as during their work hours. And so, but you're right, we do see more and more people out and about riding bikes. And my very good friend who owns a bike shop said that their service is booked because everybody pulled their bikes out of storage, when they couldn't go to the gyms and whatnot, and started becoming more and more active, which is lovely, So, but it is important to continue to move your body for your well-being and keeping your immune system up. It's necessary for us to move and make sure things are pumping.
I agree. Well, I look forward to being with you after the Thanksgiving holiday as we move into the Christmas holidays and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all the other holidays that people celebrate. So these are great tips to set us up for success and make sure that we are present and mindful when we do decide to be with others, and do it in a safe manner.
Right.
So thank you so much, Sherry Ann. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate AARP.
Okay. Well, happy holidays, everybody. And this concludes the show.